Hello everyone, welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. So we've talked at length about Zhongli and Ganyu, but that's not the only banner that players need to worry about, and that's because the weapon banner featuring the Vortex Vanquisher and the Amos Bow is almost here as well. And while I know that a lot of players won't be summoning on the weapon banner at all, mainly because it's a bit of a scam, for those that want to live a little dangerously, or just want the best of the best for their Zhongli or Ganyu, let's discuss whether or not the Vortex Vanquisher and the Amos Bow are actually worth your primos. If you do end up finding the video helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. It does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm and I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact videos from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell below. Alright, but with all that out of the way, let's get into the video. Okay, let's go ahead and start off with the Vortex Vanquisher, since it's supposed to be the rate-up weapon for Zhongli, and newer players might not know everything that they need to know about this weapon. Should you summon for Vortex Vanquisher? The quickest and easiest answer is a flat no. No, I don't think that anyone should be rolling specifically for this weapon. We talked about this briefly in my Is Zhongli Worth It video, but I need to reiterate that this is not Zhongli's best in slot. Despite all the promotional material, his demo, and the fact that it is his rate-up weapon, Vortex Vanquisher has almost no synergy with Zhongli in his current state. When Zhongli was first released all the way back in version 1.1, Zhongli scaled a lot more with attack. However, after miHoYo did rework Zhongli, he scaled primarily off of HP, making the Vortex Vanquisher's attack substat way less impressive when building a Zhongli. On top of this, while the passive may seem pretty good, in practice it really falls short. To get the extra attack from the passive, you do have to hit enemies multiple times, and while this is okay for a main DPS Zhongli, 90% of people build Zhongli to be a support, so having to give Zhongli even more field time in order to build up his stacks just isn't ideal and leads to a DPS loss. And as for the additional shield strength, while at first glance this may look like a really good improvement to his shield, you need to keep in mind that this only affects the character that has the Vortex Vanquisher equipped, meaning that only Zhongli when he's on the field is actually going to have his shield strength increased, while if you switch to another character, they won't receive any of the benefits. Again, this is fine for a main DPS Zhongli, but if you're running him as a sub DPS / support unit that's never on the field, then honestly what's the point? The only true synergy that this weapon does have with Zhongli is that since Zhongli does have such a long-lasting and durable shield, he'll always be able to double the effects of the passive. But in my opinion, this isn't enough to make it worth it. So if the Vortex Vanquisher isn't Zhongli's best in slot, what is? In my personal opinion, it's the Staff of Homa. Not only does it give Zhongli a lot of crit damage so that he just deals more damage overall, it also increases his HP by 20% at R1, which not only increases the shield's damage absorption, but also boosts his damage since he does scale off of HP. The passive may be a little bit hard to trigger, since Zhongli hardly takes damage anyway, but even with Zhongli not being below 50% health, this weapon vastly improves Zhongli's overall damage output, while simultaneously increasing your team's survivability. So if you were planning on going for a rate-up 5-star weapon for Zhongli, my advice would be to skip the Vortex Vanquisher altogether for the Staff of Homa. The bad news is that we actually did have a Staff of Homa rate-up during the Hu Tao banner, meaning that if you did miss it then you're probably not going to get another chance for quite a while. But I still personally think that it's worth the wait, especially since the Staff of Homa also is very good with so many other polearm users, meaning that you'll get way more bang for your buck, since you can switch it with other characters and still get great results. It's also important to note that the Vortex Vanquisher isn't even Zhongli's second best 5-star option. The Primordial Jadewing Spear will also out-damage the Vortex Vanquisher, since it does give you extra crit rate, allowing you to build more crit damage onto your Zhongli. And while Engulfing Lightning and Skyward Spine might not out-damage Vortex Vanquisher when it has max stats, they are both infinitely better for a burst sub DPS build, mainly because they provide very valuable energy recharge. And even if you don't have a 5-star weapon, in terms of 4-star options you can always go for the Deathmatch or the Blackcliff Pole for more damage, the Favonius Lance or the Catch for more energy recharge, or if you're just going for a shield bot build, you can even go for the 3-star weapon, the Black Tassel. I'm not necessarily saying that the Vortex Vanquisher is trash by any means, but there's just no reason to use your Primo Gems when there's so many other options. Ganyu, on the other hand, is another story. The Amos Bow has been and currently still is Ganyu's absolute best in slot DPS option. While it might not have a crit rate or crit damage substat, it more than makes up for it by giving Ganyu a huge attack boost, but even more importantly, its passive does increase Ganyu's normal and charge attacks by 12% at R1, and additionally increases the damage dealt by 8% every 0.1 seconds, depending on how long the arrow is airborne. This effect can stack up to 5 times, meaning at R1 this can give you an additional 40% damage to your arrow shot. And since Ganyu likes to keep distance between her and her enemies, and the fact that her charge attacks are her main source of damage, honestly just makes this weapon absolutely cracked. It was also brought to my attention in the comments of my Is Ganyu Worth It video that Ganyu's Frostlake arrow blooms are actually also counted towards the time airborne, making the final hit from her bloom deal even more damage. Because of this, no other weapon really stands up to this in terms of overall DPS DPS from her charge shots. So if you're looking for her absolute best in slot in terms of a main DPS build, then the Amos Bow is your best bet. However, does that mean that you should necessarily summon for it? That's where things get a little bit tricky. While the Amos Bow definitely is her best in slot DPS weapon, that doesn't necessarily mean that she doesn't have other good options. If you already have a weapon like the Skyward Harp, that's definitely a good option since it does increase your crit rate and crit damage. And even if you don't have that, Ganyu does have some pretty good free-to-play options. In terms of 4-star options, she has access to the Blackcliff Warbow, the Prototype Crescent, and more recently the Hamayumi, all of which are very good options for a main DPS build. Will you get the same results as if you were using an Amos Bow? Probably not, but the damage that you can deal is still pretty decent, and not having to roll on the weapon banner is a huge plus. You also have to keep in mind that you might not actually roll the Amos Bow, and could accidentally get the Vortex Vanquisher or an off weapon instead. It's also really important to note that the Amos Bow can be found on the standard banner, and many players might have already gotten lucky and gotten it from there, or might get it from there in the future. In fact, my very first copy of the Amos Bow came from the standard banner, and it was actually the first 5-star weapon I ever got. Obviously, this won't be the case for everyone, and going for it while it's on rate up is probably your absolute best chance, but I still thought it was important to bring up the fact that you could accidentally get it down the line anyway. So where exactly does that leave us? Should you summon on this weapon banner, or should you just go ahead and skip? While I know that the Amos Bow is going to be extremely tempting for a lot of players, if I were to give my personal advice, I would actually say go ahead and skip this banner. Yes, the Amos Bow is Ganyu's absolute best in slot DPS option, but for free-to-play or low-spending players, her free-to-play options are actually pretty good, and I don't think that it's worth the risk of accidentally getting the Vortex Vanquisher, which is currently not the best in slot option for any character in Genshin Impact. It's not necessarily a bad weapon by any means, but there's currently no character that can bring out its full potential, making it far less valuable than weapons like the Staff of Homa or the Primordial Jade Cutter that can be used by just about any character that uses those types of weapons. I think that the risk is just a little bit too high for my taste, and if it was any other spear besides the Vortex Vanquisher, I'd be much more inclined to recommend this. Also keep in mind that this is the weapon banner, which is notorious for not being free-to-play friendly at all. For those that don't already know, in order to absolutely guarantee the weapon that you want from the weapon banner, you have to break pity 3 separate times. So while you could get extremely lucky and get it on your very first pity, keep in mind that on the exact opposite end of the spectrum, you could go all the way to pity 2 times and still not get the rate up weapon that you were going for, meaning that you'll have to go all the way to pity a 3rd time in order to guarantee the weapon that you want. And while this is wildly better than what we originally had when we first started Genshin and there was no way to guarantee which weapon you got, the idea of breaking pity 3 separate times is still a little bit scary. So keep that all in mind before you decide to roll. However, at the end of the day, I know that players are going to do whatever they want, but I still wanted to give you guys all the information that you needed in order to make a proper decision for yourself. So whether you do decide to roll or not, I wish you the best of luck. And if you're still having a little bit of trouble trying to decide whether or not you want to summon for Ganyu or Zhongli, I have made a couple videos on both of them, so I'll make sure to leave some links to those videos both above and down below. And if you did end up finding this video helpful at all, please feel free to leave me a like and comment down below. It does help me boost into the YouTube algorithm, and I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want to see more Genshin Impact content from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. But that's all for now, so until next time, best wishes, bye!